The Army's CH-47 Chinook helicopter is often called the workhorse of Vietnam. Early in April 1967, the Army established the feasibility of airlifting these helicopters from their approximate point of manufacture to the battlefields of Vietnam. Airlift began with a partial disassembly of the helicopters at the New Cumberland Army Depot in Pennsylvania. The disassembly involved removal of the pylons, the rotors, and drive shafts, all of which were secured within the helicopter itself. The front and aft transmissions were transported separately. 2 Chinooks were actually included in the test, both handled in the same manner. After the partial dismantling, the aircraft were transported overland from New Cumberland to Olmsted Air Force Base, towed by M-52 tractors. Until now, the helicopters, after completion of certain installations and modifications at New Cumberland, were ferried to the West Coast and then transported overseas by ship. The ocean voyage alone takes about a month. If the Chinooks could be airlifted, the travel time to Southeast Asia would be greatly reduced. At Olmsted, a special New Cumberland Army Depot crew supervised the loading of one of the Army's largest helicopters, gross weight 33,000 pounds, aboard a C-133B, the largest turboprop transport in the U.S. Air Force inventory. It has a payload capability of over 100,000 pounds. With the helicopter aboard, the cargo masters took off for South Vietnam. The Special Army Depot team assigned to the project flew to the same destination by means of other air transport. The team's mission was to supervise the offloading and reassembly of the helicopters so that they could be swiftly deployed to wherever they might be needed in the combat area. Today, this same function is being accomplished by crews trained by the initial team. The air transport test was a success. Where surface movement by land and sea normally took a total of 46 days, air transport, including disassembly, loading, travel, offloading, and reassembly, required only 10 days, a significant saving of a minimum of 36 days. What was initially a feasibility test has now become standard procedure. Chinooks are currently being airlifted to Southeast Asia on a scheduled basis, and ways are being explored to further reduce the time involved. The new Chinooks are exchanged on a one-for-one basis for those that are old or severely damaged. These are flown back to the States by the same C-133Bs for major overhaul and repair. Air transport of CH-47s is not meant to eliminate surface movement, but to supplement it. The shipment of a full company of Chinooks is still done most expeditiously by a freighter. But for the quick replacement of those suffering from attrition, airlift is the most effective procedure. The value of this development to our fighting forces in Southeast Asia is, of course, considerable. Early in 1967, the Tropic Test Center of the U.S. Army Test and Evaluation Command evaluated the Mobile Ion Exchange Unit. Developed by the Army Mobility Equipment Research and Development Center, the unit is a self-contained water demineralization and radioisotope removing system. It's assembled in a van-type body mounted on a 2.5-ton truck. The unit is to be used under environmental conditions found in temperate and tropical areas and under controlled Arctic conditions. Its main purpose is to make contaminated water safe for drinking and general use. The equipment is used in conjunction with the standard water purification equipment known as the Erdlater, which has the capability of removing all suspended particles from 3,000 gallons of water per hour. The Mobile Ion Exchange Unit is also capable of demineralizing slightly brackish water for drinking purposes as well as for softening water as required for laundries and boiler plants. The unit has not yet been standardized and is still under development and test. Early in 1967, at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, an intensified Type 2 confirmatory test was conducted on the M102 105mm howitzer. The test was performed under the supervision of the United States Army Artillery Board. The M102 was developed to replace the M101A1 105mm howitzer in situations requiring both a lightweight artillery support weapon and extended range. The M102 can be rotated 360 degrees on its base and was especially developed for insurgency-type warfare. A limited number of these items have been employed in Vietnam. The test items were subjected to various types of moves, such as overland towing by wheeled vehicles designed to check the reliability and maintainability of the weapon, which had been modified and improved. The test was conducted under simulated combat conditions, utilizing batteries of the 101st Airborne Division. A second type of move was a parachute drop from a winged aircraft. About 10% of the test operations was conducted under blackout conditions. Another of the various types of moves involved transportation of the test items inside a helicopter. They were also carried by Chinooks by means of slings. Records were kept of the time and duties required to displace and emplace the test items when delivered to different positions by the different modes of transport. Weapon emplacement positions consisted of varied types of terrain with slopes of varying degrees and directions. This was to expose the difficulties, if any, and the time required to stabilize the weapon for immediate delivery of fire in the types of soil encountered. Repeated firings were also part of the test. The objective of identifying remaining equipment deficiencies so that additional changes could be incorporated into production and retrofitted into fielded items was only part of the test goal. Another aim was to establish the minimum crew and the most efficient assignment of duties for the crew members. And still another was to determine any training deficiencies and/or training problems encountered in employing the item. The results of the intensified Type 2 confirmatory test of the M102 howitzer not only determined operational capabilities and maintenance requirements, but indicated the value of utilizing TOE troop units for obtaining a measure of performance under actual theater conditions. The unprecedented use of Connex containers has led the Army to redesign and augment existing equipment to permit more efficient handling and transport of the container at all levels of logistical operations. Connex containers are proving to be the most practical answer to the tremendous problem of moving and storing supplies for Vietnam, where upwards of 40,000 of them are protecting valuable contents and speeding their delivery to troops in the field. Made of steel, Connex comes in two sizes. The most popular is Type 2. It is approximately 8.5 feet long, 6.5 feet wide, and 7 feet high. It weighs 1,500 pounds and has 295 cubic feet of usable space and a maximum payload of 9,000 pounds. Type 1 on the right has the same height, width, and payload, but is only half as long. It weighs 1,000 pounds and provides 135 cubic feet of space. A third type is specially designed for use with weapons and electronics equipment. The dehumidified Connex is essentially a Type 2 container with a steel liner and breathing system. Recently, the Army Materiel Command's Mobility Equipment Research and Development Center at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, has undertaken a crash project aimed at speeding up the handling and transport of Connex containers under a variety of terrain conditions, ranging from underdeveloped beaches to forward combat areas. Field studies disclosed a need for equipment that could self-load, transport, and unload 2 or more Connexes without the help of cranes, forklifts, or other special handling equipment. To meet this need, a tilt-bed trailer capable of handling 3 fully loaded Connexes was designed and built in 110 days by the R&D Center and Barnes & Reinecke of Chicago. The gooseneck trailer is towed by a standard International Harvester 2-wheel tractor and powered by a 240 horsepower diesel engine. A hydraulic cylinder 8.5 inches in diameter tilts or retracts the bed in just 15 seconds. It can be controlled from the cab or from the side of the trailer. Containers are loaded by tilting the bed and skidding them on with the help of self-contained winches. Shivs on the rear of the trailer align the Connexes with the bed. The reels move through an arc that forces the Connex to move upward as well as forward. This action frees a container that has settled in sand or mud. When the far end of the Connex is on the trailer, the bed is lowered to allow the container to be pulled to the front. The bed is designed with a flat cargo surface so that it may be used with many other types of cargo. The bed raising process is repeated until all 3 containers are loaded. 2 men can perform the entire operation in only 7 or 8 minutes. If necessary, 1 man can do the job alone. Improvements are being made to permit a more simplified method of loading. The tractor trailer can turn in a radius of 38 feet and can easily maneuver through crowded beach areas. It can climb 40-degree slopes. An automatic constant horsepower hydraulic assist on the rear wheels provides extra power in low and reverse. The tractor trailer can travel at convoy speeds of 30 miles per hour on improved roads. With the help of the rear wheel power assist, the vehicle can ride over rough terrain and ford streams up to 4 feet deep. It is 40 feet 9 inches long, 9.5 feet wide, and weighs 43,000 pounds. Loaded with Connex containers, its height is 11 feet 8 inches. Using the articulated steering, the driver can pivot the prime mover 90 degrees to either side to maneuver his vehicle through narrow trails. A 118-gallon fuel tank gives the transporter a cruising range of about 200 miles. When he gets to the site, the operator can release the tie-down chains and winch cables and drop the containers in a matter of minutes. All Connexes may be unloaded simultaneously by tilting the bed and driving off. On smooth ground, the driver can unload the containers an equal distance apart, just enough to allow troops to gain access to the supplies. The Mobility Equipment R&D Center has improved the military rough terrain forklift to meet an urgent need for a cross-country vehicle that can transport as well as transfer a single Type 1 Connex. Redesigned to meet performance specifications engineered at the center, the forklift can operate in up to 5 feet of water. Four-wheel drive and four-wheel steer combine to give it a high degree of mobility. Powered by a 185 horsepower diesel engine, the vehicle can climb grades up to 45 degrees and carry a full load 26 miles per hour over improved roads. The vehicle can shift the load from one side to the other. Tilt it. Extend or retract it, and oscillate it. These functions permit exact placement of the load even on rough terrain. The forks can be raised up to 12 feet and have a self-leveling feature that maintains them in the same position relative to the ground as the load is raised or lowered. The vehicle is more mobile, reliable, stable, and serviceable than the standard rough terrain forklift. Several hundred are currently being procured, with many slated for use in Southeast Asia. Identical improvements have been made to the smaller version of the rough terrain forklift, which can handle connexes weighing up to 6,000 pounds. Several hundred of these are now in the process of procurement. A 20-ton rough terrain crane, now coming off production lines and headed for Vietnam, will solve the mobility problems encountered with the 20-ton standard crane. Over 600 are now under procurement. The AMC study also disclosed a need for simple equipment that would give combat troops the capability of lifting the Connex and transporting it for short distances. Hardware involving trailer and truck-mounted A-frames were selected for development. The truck-mounted A-frame is 15.5 feet long, 3.5 feet wide, and 10 feet high, and can be mounted on standard 5-ton cargo and dump trucks. Weighing 3,360 pounds, the unit can be delivered by a Chinook helicopter and installed in about 45 minutes in the folded mobile position. It stands about 14 feet above the road. The boom can be placed into lifting position in about 5 minutes. The normal spring capacity of the truck is 6,000 pounds. By putting blocks between the frame and the rear axle, or ballast on the front of the vehicle, the capacity can be increased to 10,500 pounds. Powered by a 20-horsepower standard military gasoline engine, the A-frame can lift a 10,500-pound Connex 8 feet. Free from hydraulics and other mechanisms normally employed in lifting devices, it is simple to operate and maintain. The truck-mounted A-frame can be used in place of the truck-mounted medium wrecker. The trailer-mounted A-frame can be towed at convoy speeds by cargo and dump trucks and folded to a height of 10 feet. It weighs 5,600 pounds and is easily transportable by the Chinook helicopter. More stable than the truck-mounted model, it can handle and transport the Connex with ease. However, it is harder to maneuver and more difficult to get into operation. Efforts are being made to reduce the time required for installation. Using a 4-part lifting cable, the unit can load and unload Connexes from line haul vehicles. Manual adjustments permit 3 different boom positions for lifting other cargo and equipment as high as 15 feet. As mobile as its prime mover, it can haul the container over secondary roads and rough terrain for longer distances than the truck-mounted unit. At the destination, the prime mover is free to transport men, equipment, or more containers. Like the other specially developed Connex handling and transport devices, The A-frames will help to speed the flow of supplies and equipment from beach or dockside to the man in the field.
I'm at your 3 o'clock.
This ought to be a little easier.
Yeah.
You got him?
I've got him. And 2-4 is off of Maryland.
2-5, set your 5 o'clock.
All right, twin up. Ship D.
Where's 2-3?
2-3. Winds are showing about 27016. Why do we got him out of the east?
I think ours is wrong.
Yeah. You'll be over or underneath strike eagle 084. You'll be off to the north a little bit. Further to the north.
I know ours is wrong.
Now I got smoke. Turn left. Say you're 9 o'clock, 1.5 kilometers. You should be coming around to the left here back to Indiana. And 260, have these civilians approaching 23. Roger.
On the ground. Like a right-hand orbit?
Yep.
And the guys are running. Look behind it. The white hot?
Yep, I am.
Gotcha. Gonna get a little dusty.
If you want to make another pass, just make sure they stop again. 26 rather. Roger.
Back out of view.
Yep. Two fours on the go.
Roger, we're making clockwise traffic around you.
Nice, 26. Turn up. Appreciate it. No problem. Yeah, Mustang 2-4 is clamshell 30.
We're going to have a tough time making it to 10 Archival at 12.
So what the ceremony is. And 7708.
That's it.
The accident you are about to review involved a CH-47D helicopter and occurred at 1750 on 23 September 1994, about 35 miles northeast of the town of McCall, Idaho. Portions of the unit had been working with the U.S. Forest Service, engaged in fighting forest fires for most of the fire season. The accident crew had been deployed for 27 days. Their first mission of the day was to transport 60 passengers to a rear area at 1800 and then provide fire bucket service until released. The day prior, a unit representative had conducted a ground reconnaissance of the landing zone and reported to the crew that it was a big area with no hazards and only a slight slope. The landing zone had been previously burned and its surface was covered with dust and ash. To reduce the hazard of blowing dust, the Forest Service arranged to have 3 water bucket drops in the landing area. The last water bucket drop was in progress as the CH-47 arrived. The crew circled the landing area carrying an empty water bucket on a 120-foot sling and made their approach generally to the north. They planned to approach to the left of the landing area, set the bucket on the hillside, then hover to the right and land to load the passengers. They would leave the water bucket on the landing zone and retrieve it after the passenger hauls were completed. Their point of intended landing was perceived by the crew to be on a slight slope, approximately 2 to 3 degrees upslope to the front and 2 to 3 degrees upslope to the right. This perception proved to be erroneous, however, as the slope where they attempted to land was actually 11 degrees up to the front, not the 2 to 3 degrees that they had anticipated. As they placed the forward landing gear on the ground and reduced thrust to lower the aft gear, the helicopter slid down the slope to a point where the forward rotor blades struck the ground. Immediately after contacting the ground, the forward rotor blades impacted the fuselage, severing the drive shaft, flight control tubes, and all the hydraulic lines and electrical wiring routed along the top of the cabin. The forward rotor lost power at that point, but the aft rotor was still being driven by the engines. The aft rotor lifted the rear of the aircraft until it rotated over the nose. It then rolled about 120 degrees to the right and came to rest on its right side, facing generally south. One crew member was fatally injured, and the other 3 received minor cuts and bruises. A Forest Service passenger escaped injury. The aircraft was totally destroyed.
Romeo Fox, Romeo November on TAC 3. Romeo November, Johnson on TAC 3. Hey, Johnson. We got a ship down, a Chinook down on H-14. We copy things about we were leaving, we're leaving Sheep Creek right now, and we'll be heading back down a bit. Notify your ops. What do you mean, is it down, or is it what? He is impacted. Oh my God, okay.
The 3 surviving crew members and 1 passenger egressed unassisted. The fatally injured crew member was inside the aircraft but covered with debris. The crew searched for several minutes before locating his body. Smoke from the post-crash fire and the noise and concern generated by the left engine, which continued to operate after the crash, added to the confusion of the moment.
Bring that Jeep up here! Stay out of that area! Bob, bring the Jeep up here!
Romeo Fox, Johnson on TAC 3. Romeo Fox, go. Okay, the Chinook has impacted. We have survivors. I need air evac at Davis Ranch.
A medevac helicopter was called immediately, and arrived on the scene in approximately 20 minutes.
Romeo Fox, you copy? Romeo Fox, copy, just stand by.
Everybody! Hey! Up there! Yeah! Come on, let's go back!
Air attack, over. Air attack, Johnson. It's air attack. Understand we have any there, can I help? Yeah, we have the Chinook. The Chinook is down on its side. We've got people out. Just, I don't know if we've got anyone else inside. I don't know what the crew strength was. Probably recommend a live flight ship. Okay, understand. We'll get the Guardian in standby.
A small post-crash fire developed in the rear of the cabin and was extinguished by a pilot using one of the aircraft handheld fire extinguishers.
Pull your gear back over this way.
That's that one guy's still in there. Oh, that one guy's still in there. How many were on board? 5.
Although the left engine was torn from its physical mounts and only dangled by its fuel and oil lines, it continued to run after the crash. The crew attempted to shut the engine down by closing the manual fuel valve inside the cabin. However, damage to the airframe prevented the fuel valve from being completely closed. It allowed enough fuel through the line to sustain the engine at near idle RPM.
I've got firemen down to talk to him. I've got 4 people out of the ship, 1 walking wounded. They have 1 turbine running. They tried everything but beat it with a hammer to make it stop.
The engine operated for nearly 2 hours before trained maintenance personnel could be brought to the site, remove the metal from around the valve, and shut the engine down. The cause of this accident was human error. The crew of the CH-47 was unable to accurately identify the most suitable portion of the landing area, and as a result attempted to land on an unexpected 11-degree slope. The crew's error was a result of environmental conditions that existed at the landing zone and their reliance on the accuracy of a unit representative's description of the landing zone's suitability. The terrain features were not properly identified during the landing area reconnaissance. When the crew descended into the area from a near vertical position, they perceived the landing area to be fairly level. This was due to the angle from which they were viewing the area, and also because the area had been burned by the fire, there was nothing left to provide contrast. The vegetation was totally burned away, and the color was constant throughout the landing zone. In addition, the area of intended landing had been watered down to settle the dust. The water-soaked ground also contributed to the lack of contrast, as no shadows were visible on the darkened surface. All unit personnel should be briefed on the facts and circumstances of this accident, with particular emphasis placed on the importance of effective landing area reconnaissance, and also on how a lack of contrast can distort slope perceptions. This accident claimed 1 life and totally destroyed the aircraft. The estimated cost of damage of this accident is $13,770,360.
forward right and aft boxes are empty. The other two are still transferring, mains are overpressurized. 3,600 left on fuel burn is 2,400 an hour. And a 500 foot rate minute 5. You're clear right. Clear right. Out before landing, park brakes set, both auto and coupled MFDs across the board. Modes are unuseful, switch lost search are required professional equipment.
Everett.
Captain North. That's good.
Alright, we're on the downwind for landing.
Wrap snap. Yes, surrender.
Clear down left and right.
Clear down left. Clear down right. At the front. There in sight. That's your 31 knots ground speed. 57% forward.
Go right, slide right.
Go right. Third slide right. Full, slide right. That's all. Step top. Slide right. Forward right. That's all, sir. Third on right. Off the key. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. After your contact. Forward. Roger, now. Godspeed, they're going to remain on the west side of Route 1 and we'll see on the east side. Yes, sir. Didn't want to updraft, downdraft here. I'm just kind of letting Brian deal with it. Like all you see all those upsells everywhere? Yeah, see, there's a big updraft. I'm not going to fight it and stuff the thrust out. I'll just blow it out and come down slowly. Probably the same thing they're doing. Pretty high. Yeah, it's a little hazy, maybe a little rain, but it's a storm strike up here. Okay, you got anything on there? I'm not seeing anything.
Nee joh, hij krijgt zoveel stof daar, denk ik, dat hij... Misschien dat hij naar de plaat gaat.
Ja, dat denk ik wel.
Eens kijken daar joh, oh, dat is... Volgens mij denkt hij, ik ga weg.
Ik zal sowieso weggaan. Het lijkt me ook op kaart. Die anderen gaan ook weg, zie je dat?
Ja. Kijk eens wat de stof daar, joh. Oh.
Dan staat hij bezakt, zie je dat?
Kijk eens hier, hè? Oh.
Net staat hij in front.
Ja.
Anders nog niet.
Die kan kappen, joh. Als hij nu strak op te staan, dan is het feest.
Sorry, om de naast gaan heel nat en dat kan niet. Komt met de autobladen.
Denk ik.
Ik zie nergens mensen. Mensen die dat ding oversnijden of weet ik het. Dan gaat het volgens mij toch ernaast zetten hoor.
Ja. Nou, ik zie nou iemand lopen.
De achterkant van de Chinook, hè? Dat voelt mensen, ja. Foto's gemaakt?
Well, overall, we're flying people and cargo all over Afghanistan right now. Today we flew 8 hours, bringing people back for R&R, bringing them back out to their FOBs from R&R, or just move around the battlefield. They pay me to fly. It's amazing. I've been a Chinook pilot for the past 7 years, and before that I was a Chinook crew chief. Now I'm with Sugar Bears in Alaska. We just got back from Pakistan a few months ago from flood relief, and now we're here in Afghanistan. At the end of the day, you know, you feel like you did a good day's work. Very important, keeping soldiers off the ground, being able to move assets around the battlefield, staying away from IEDs, and keeping people alive, letting people get home to their families. I would say that without helicopter support, be a lot more ground activity, a lot more FaceTime and one-on-one fighting. So we help avoid that, maintain our posture and our different FOBs without all the ground convoys.
Pretty much, I'm responsible for everything, you know, in the aircraft itself, you know, minus flying the aircraft, and we're responsible for loading and unloading all the cargo and ensuring that, you know, everyone's secure when they're in the aircraft and everything like that. All the crew members in the back of the aircraft, you know, are responsible for pulling security at one point in the aircraft, either it be the cabin door, the ramp, or on the left gun. It's pretty amazing to be able to see places that you normally would never get to see, you know, especially from, you know, like when you fly a commercial jet, you might see out the window, but from here you're seeing stuff like 1,000 feet or less, you know, it's right out the door. We're a cargo helicopter, and basically our mission is to move cargo from one location to another, resupplying all the, you know, bases that are out there that is a hard time to resupply because it's honestly safer to fly than it is to drive those locations. For the most part, I mean, we're here to, there's obviously, you know, they needed more cargo moved, so that's why we're here. And fitting into the overall mission, I mean, we're pretty much capable of moving anything you can imagine inside the aircraft. So, I mean, we can move supplies and whatever we need to all of our forward operating bases.
Okay, my name is Staff Sergeant Sandy L. Spencer.
Okay, and what are your license?
Spelled S-P-E-N-C-E-R.
Okay, where are you from?
San Diego, California.
And where is your duty assignment?
I'm presently assigned to Bravo Company 23 Aviation at Hunter Army Airfield, Savannah, Georgia.
Today.
Our mission today was to qualify non-rated crew members in the air gunnery. Some of the challenges for me really is just coordinate and make sure everybody's here on time, aircraft is properly maintained and ready to do the gunnery itself. Ammo is present, and the environmental hazards are the normal of shooting in the desert, blowing sand, vehicles on the ground that could possibly give trace around, and that's about all. My job today is I'm overall in charge of the air gunnery range. I'm in charge of all enlisted training as far as the air crews. Mine is to make sure that we conduct a safe qualification of the air gunnery range. You know, get everybody through, everything's shot where we're supposed to be, and we do it safely. Some of the challenges, as you've seen in the beginning, we had people and equipment, farm animals on the ground. We have to make sure everything's clear. When we fire the rounds off, I got to make sure that what they're shooting at is not going to come back and hit us. As far as tracer rounds back to us, making sure that the kids aren't hitting anything outside the range area itself. Okay. 2-3's overall. This training here is we do this training all the time. It is very important that our kids understand how to operate and employ our guns here. I cannot say it enough. There are protection, and we train extensively on this for as our crew members. We sit down for at least a couple of weeks and we plan this out step by step, who's doing what and when, and everything. By the time you get to the show, everything usually falls right into place. Anytime our crews get a chance to fire, You know, they've gone through the last 3 months here, and short of a range we did in Kuwait, they haven't had a chance. The guns haven't been used. We clean them on a regular basis, and we don't fire them because nobody's shooting back at us. You know? So anytime they get a chance, pull the trigger, make sure our weapons work properly. I welcome that.
Are you part of a Chinook group?
Yes, sir. I just got to this unit. I came from maintenance and into the flight position, so I just got here, sir.
What is your job here at the flight position?
I am a door gunner.
Tell me about that.
Well, go along with the pilots on all the flights, let them know any kind of obstacles they got in their way, make sure everything's clear for takeoff, and man the gun throughout the flight. Radio towers, telephone wires, anything like that, vehicles, other aircraft.
Okay. When you're manning the gun, what are you looking for?
Anything, really, anything suspicious and out of the ordinary. You want to keep your eyes out for incoming fire, and if you're shot at, you want to let everyone know. Today was aerial gunnery training. We just went up, make sure all the weapons work, everyone gets refresher training, how to use the weapons, so that we all feel comfortable with it every time we go up. Well, it's basically just a lot of old tanks and stuff out there to fire at. I thought everyone did well. We didn't have very many weapon problems with our aircraft, so that was good. It's a big difference because, for one thing, you're moving, and sometimes at a high rate of speed, so it's a little bit more difficult to aim, and it fires in a fully automatic rather than a semi-automatic position. So it's a big difference.
Overall, it's just maintenance of the aircraft, performing phases and so forth, and unscheduled maintenance of the aircraft. But right now I'm assigned as a unit armorer, though.
Okay. That's interesting. What do you have to do as a unit armorer?
Well, my job is to make sure all the unit's weapons are accounted for, they're maintained, and that soldiers are trained on those weapons properly. Dash 10.
Okay. Where's your hometown?
Winter Haven, Florida.
Okay. And
Today we performed aerial gunnery. Took the M60 Deltas out, took them to the range out, the Butler range, and did some firing.
okay. What are some of the challenges that your soldiers have shooting 60 out of a helicopter?
Well, it's a lot different than shooting a 60 on the ground. When you're shooting from the air, you have the aircraft moving. You have to compensate for the movement and everything else, and the wind and so forth. You may not be in the best position to fire either. You're not like in a stable shooting platform, so to speak. It's a little different.
Okay. How do you think the range went?
I think today's range went very well. All the 60s worked perfectly fine. Didn't really have any mishaps or anything. Everything went well. That'd be the biggest thing. Make sure the weapons are maintained properly. Make sure we don't have any accidents or anything. Make sure the soldiers are properly trained on the weapons. And whatever else needs to be done, I guess. Well, on the air side of the house, the M60 Deltas, this aircraft come under fire or anything like that, that's their support. That's what they need. As long as you're laying down lead at the enemy, they won't be shooting back at you for the most part. Lay out suppressive fire. So, hopefully save some of these guys' life if they ever need to use it.
The range is clear, so once Chalk 1 lands and gets in position to the north, Chalk 2 is going to do just a little orbit, and then they'll land behind us and we'll start the ground portion. Okay, that's pretty much what we're going to do. Support available. We're not going to be hot or cold refueling. We're going to go out there, shoot what we got to shoot, and come back home.
Good? Okay, take it off.
Soldiers of the 4th Infantry Division Combat Aviation Brigade began using the new Foxtrot variant of the Chinook cargo helicopter recently. The aircraft has been a workhorse in the military since the Vietnam era, but the new variant boasts state-of-the-art technology.
So with the Delta model, you had all analog gauges, and with the Fox model, you can see you have 5 MFD screens. You can pull up a digital attitude indicator, you can pull up moving maps, digital readouts of all your instruments. It makes it a lot easier because you have great situational awareness with where you're at and compared to where you're flying to with your moving map display. It has nav symbology like all the airports, all the fobs, all the waypoints that you're going to.
Before each mission in the new CH-47 Foxtrots, the 5-man crew conducts detailed inspections and routine maintenance. Everything from checking the internal components to wiping down the glass is done to ensure a safe trip for the crew and their cargo.
Taking a look at the blades, taking a look at the fluid levels and everything, making sure all of the safeties are on and right, that nothing's loose. You want to make sure there's nothing wrong that's going to kill you.
The Chinooks in the division support the whole of multinational Corps Iraq by transporting supplies across the country.
We support MFNI by dropping off well-needed supplies for the units. Logistically speaking, if we don't drop off supplies at night, we can cripple other units by not having the supplies that they need to complete their mission.
The crew only fly at night, so darkness compounds the difficulty of their mission. But with the new glass cockpits and upgrades to pilot situational awareness, the crew feels safe while traveling through the skies of Iraq.
I don't get nervous because I looked at the aircraft. I spent 3 hours looking at the aircraft, and the more you fly, the more you get used to it. So I'm more concerned about the crew on the aircraft, making sure my crew's not getting hurt, not doing something wrong. As far as getting nervous, there's times where you get nervous, but never on takeoff. I'm usually pretty confident when we're taking off from my aircraft that we're going to return home safely.
After only about 2 months of using the new variants, the crew was unanimous in saying the new helicopter was more stable, easier to pilot, and far safer than its predecessor. Reporting from Multinational Division Baghdad Public Affairs, I'm Specialist Lucas Wysocki.